I, as an employee, don't have to call up my boss and say I'm having temperature when I'm actually having an anxiety attack or when I'm having a period cramp. So yeah, we have to open our minds and open our prejudices, and we have to have a meditation room next to the gym. We have to have our town halls where the leaders don't just talk about our quarterly, achievements, but also talks about failures. So yeah, I mean, it's a long discussion. This actually constitutes large parts of my workshops, so I'm trying to make a gist into a very short while. But we have to watch out, we have to hold space, especially for new mothers, again, for women, for new mothers, for mothers to be able to bring up children and careers together. There's so much work to do. And it is high time we look at that, because soon enough somebody else will look into it, and we won't like that. Now, let us change gears a little bit. I want to talk now about emotional culture at workplaces, because as much as we take care of ourselves, if the world is so wrong, then we need to also talk about it. And we also need to see, because at times we suffer from a victimhood, that we are only the recipients in the world. So whatever is happening in the world, we are at the receiving end, and we have to only wear our own seat belts and our own safety gears, and stride through the path. But it is not so. We hold responsibilities at the workplaces. We have to be better to make life better for other people, and in the process we will all be better off. When we talk about workplaces and professional roles, one thing that I want to draw your attention to, and I offer as a starting point to think about, is for every generation there is going to be a generation gap, right? As a generation, I think us, like our generation now, the way our parents saw the world, they made estimates and presumptions, and they brought us up in that way. So especially when I was speaking at my second TEDx, I closed my address. I was speaking about gender sensitivity at workplaces, and I closed my address saying that we as women, our generation, we have been brought up by our parents to be ready for the workplace. Now it falls on us, this generation, to bring up the workplaces to be ready for women. I think now that I'm talking to you about emotional culture, the same can be said about emotional culture. Our parents, the way they saw the world, they were industrial age workers, and they saw the world as we will all grow up to be able to go to the workplace and report to a boss and listen to them. And at their time, people used to work alongside machines, right? So they saw it that way, that how we can learn to take instructions and follow them through and see to a completion of a project. Our education system, the entire academic model, was based on IQ alone. There was no question of EQ. There was no question of body wisdom. There was no question of anything else but scores and marks and admissions and cracking the next job. We know better. Let us pride ourselves with that fact that we have learned a little better than that. We grew up and we entered the job, the workforce. We entered our jobs, and soon enough we realized that there must be more to life. This isn't enough. This isn't quenching our thirst. And one practical aspect of that is that we are now knowledge workers. We are not industrial workers. We don't work alongside machines. We work with the machines. And I remember this quote by Chris Anderson, who's from TED. So I love this line in his book where he says that in today's time and age, machines can really do most of the things that we used to do at times. So it can even do the most sophisticated and the most minute surgeries. And so in today's time and age, with so much of technological advance, we human beings, we are, the only way left to be human beings is to be human beings. The only way left to be human is to be human. To be able to put our feelings forward, to be able to embrace our mess of a human life. And unfortunately, till today, we are working with a lot of hangover from that industrial age. By that we mean that most of our work, deadlines, our targets, our goals, our KPIs, they are driven by a fear psychosis instead of love. Instead of collaboration, there is competition. A healthy competition is good for productiveness, but we are greater than the sum of our parts, and yet we are trying to kind of elbow each other, and that culture is very much there. And maybe, I mean, I'm just making a presumptuous statement here, but allow me, maybe in a country like India, it might be a little more so, because it all depends on scarcity versus abundance. And, we have been brought up with the belief that there are only so many jobs out there. There are only so much of resources out there, and we must, run and rush and reach and grab. So that mentality has stayed true. We have to allow for mental health provisions in our in our health provisions. So our insurance should stretch into mental health. I, as an employee, don't have to call up my boss and say I'm having temperature when I'm actually having an anxiety attack, or when I'm having a period cramp. So yeah, we have to open our minds and open our prejudices, and we have to have a meditation room next to the gym. We have to have our town halls where the leaders don't just talk about our quarterly achievements, but also talks about failures. So yeah, I mean, it's a long discussion. This actually constitutes large parts of my workshop, so I'm trying to make a gist into a very short while. But we have to watch out, we have to hold space, especially for new mothers, again, for women, for new mothers, for mothers, to be able to bring up children and careers together. There's so much work to do. With us.